want our personalities to have personalities? Do we want our personalities to be fans of teams, or do we want them to be completely neutral automatons? That's how we start the show here today. It's Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel, and you Tolos who are already watching on the stream, welcome in. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube is how you can be a part of the show. Chop it up with the other Tolos, and now you can see other Tolos messages right there on the stream. Previously, you could only see messages that were posted on the same platform that you're watching on. Well, now they're all on the screen, and you can see what everybody has to say.
Did you say Dewey?
Does somebody need to get fired?
No, it's so bad that my mind is conditioned that when you say Dewey, my mind goes Dewey. That's terrible. You said Dewey. Your opening there of the show, and my mind goes to Dewey, and it's not a good thing. I need to get Dewey. My mind's too conditioned, I guess, to Dewey.
So you're not going to find me shedding a lot of tears for any of the controversies that Kirk Herbstreit gets himself embroiled in, because it does happen from time to time. Well, Kirk has decided to take a shot at one of my favorite easy on the eyes ESPN TV reporters. He's taking a shot at Elle Duncan on ESPN, saying that she's too much of a homer. She's openly cheering for Georgia, and I don't like that. So I tried to find some audio of what Kirk Herbstreit might be talking about here, because I couldn't quite find it. I couldn't put my finger on anything that was blatantly obvious from Elle Duncan being a hardcore Georgia fan. I had to go call all the way back to 2023 on a Dogs HQ, looks like a video podcast. I'm not really sure exactly what platform this was shared on, but here's some audio of Elle Duncan on Dogs HQ in 2023 barking like them dogs.
Go Dogs, and I'll see you out there, dog fans. And by the way, I don't give a damn what SoFi says. We'll find a place to tailgate. Let's go, Dogs. I want grown men barking at children in LA. That's what I want. The energy I'm bringing. Let's go, Dogs. Let's win.
Like, first of all, it's weird that Georgia fans bark at other people. You're a grown-ass man. You're an insurance salesman, sir. Why are you on all fours barking at people outside of neutral site games? I don't quite understand it, but Kirk Herbstreit has a big-time problem with that.
Was Elle Duncan in that audio that you played, was she calling a game, or was she just...
I think she was on a podcast. Yeah, it sounds like...
It sounded like a podcast.
It sounds like she was saying, like it was a preseason interview.
Yeah.
And she's hyped for some matchup that Georgia's going to be playing in. Maybe it was a bowl game. She said LA. So I'm thinking, was 2022, 23, was Georgia in a bowl game in California? Maybe. I'm not entirely sure. But that's what Kirk's mad about.
My whole thing is with Elle Duncan is Diesel, and the reason I asked that question is because I don't think Elle Duncan's on the call for Georgia football games.
No, she's not.
Or Georgia basketball.
No.
You know what?
She does some sideline reporting. She does some pregame in-stadium breakdowns. Like I saw her doing a South Carolina women's basketball matchup. So before the game, like there was no fans in the stands. This was like hours before tip-off, saying like, hey, I think so-and-so on this team's going to get 10 rebounds, or I think that person's going to get 20 points. Which is fine. I got no problem with that at all. She's not a South Carolina fan. She is a Georgia fan. She is from Georgia. I don't know if she went to Georgia.
So I wanted to see exactly what the issue was from Herbstreit. And we're going to talk a lot of Herbstreit on the show today, especially in the next segment, Diesel. But, like, if somebody else were to have said this, maybe you take a little more, maybe you give it a little more credibility. But Kirk Herbstreit said that and I'm reading on this article right now, that he's not a fan of her openly cheering for her favorite team on SportsCenter.
Right.
He specifically says SportsCenter.
Right.
He says it hurts your credibility when your team is playing other teams. I get it when you're calling a game, when you're on a broadcast, when you're doing play-by-play, or you're doing the color commentary, or you're doing the sideline reporting. I get that. But on SportsCenter, on a podcast, like, let's be honest, we need personality. We need some flair.
Right.
I Again, just knee-jerk reaction here, but I don't find a lot of issue with it.
You listen to the Rich Eisen show that comes on before us. Rich Eisen talks about being a Michigan alum.
He does a lot.
All the time.
A lot.
You listen to Scott Van Pelt's show. He talks about being a Maryland alum. All the time. And these are national level reporters. They're people, okay? We're all in this business because we're fans. We all went to school somewhere. We all are fans of somebody. I got no problem. Now, again, you would think with this story being as big a deal as it is now, and I've seen a lot of different outlets covering it, you would think that somebody would have dug up clips of L. Duncan on SportsCenter barking and rooting openly for Georgia, yet they're not out there. I had to go back to 2023 to find anything of L being a Georgia homer.
And my whole thing is, look, I go back to what I said about personality. We always ask people for personality. And when you're calling a game or hosting a show or hosting a podcast, we love the ones with personality. The ones that are dull and talks like this, we don't really love, right? I think there are standards if you're calling a game and you're on a non-biased platform. Not if you're on Georgia radio, not if you're on Alabama radio, because your job and responsibility is to be a little bit angled toward the home team or toward the team that you're broadcasting for. But on SportsCenter, man, I don't know. I'd love to see and hear Diesel the full context if he was asked specifically about L. Duncan. This doesn't make any sense to me why you brought L. Duncan up. I think instantly of Molly Kiram on First Take. She is very open about being a UConn grad.
Sure.
She wears UConn jerseys. She pulls for them. It's very evident. And I have no issue with that, even on a show as big as First Take.
I think you can be a fan. You can be open about your fandom on national shows so long as you don't let your fandom turn into homerism where all you do is gas up the home team and all you do is bash on the other team, right? So L replied to Kirk,
yes, good
saying,
for her, by the way.
Didn't have this on my bingo card for today, but my fandom doesn't impact in any way what or how we talk about teams on air, ever. I'm not the only one, so why am I getting singled out? That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I wonder if anybody from ESPN is sending Kirk Herbstreit a text message like, yo, why are you inciting violence against a teammate here? We're all ESPN. We're all on the same team.
And I can't find any audio. That's what's weird. I don't know
either.
if they've, I don't know. Yeah. I see the quotes. I see L. Duncan's tweet, but I'm looking literally live as we speak for audio, Diesel, to try to.
It's not there.
No, it's not there.
It's not there. Like I said, I had to go back to 2023 to find that.
You know what I wish L. Duncan would have said? I wish she would have, and I like L. Duncan, by the way. I think she does a really good job, especially when she was here, for the women's tournament, the SEC tournament in Greenville. L. Duncan should have responded back and said, hey, how about you quit being a fan of that stupid dog that you bring around all the time? And here goes the people, here come the Tolos, screaming that I hate dogs. But how about you worry about your job a little more than you do bringing that dumb dog around every single time you're at a stadium and trying to get the dog on TV with the play? I mean, come on. L. Duncan has a right to go at him. I like Kirk. I have some audio that I'm going to play in a minute in the next segment about Kirk, but I think this was just kind of, again, she's right. Why single her out here?
It feels like with the dog, Kirk is trying to set up some sort of an endorsement. Like, hey, guys, here's my dog on TV all the time. You want him to wear your company's logo? Print a bandana. We'll put him on TV. Everybody's going to see him and say, oh, how cute is that? And you're going to see, an MTC Federal Credit Union logo right there on – what's his dog's name? Boomer or something like that? Right there on Boomer's bandana. Here's the thing, Cole. Like, Kirk has been in this business long enough. And, you go back to the very early days of Kirk Herbstreit, Mr. Chad, spiked up frosted tips on his hair. Like, you would think that he would know how hard it is for people to be taken seriously in this business. And he would be like, yo, let's not take shots at a teammate here. But here's my theory, Cole. This is a conspiracy theory, okay? And I'm the same person who, for the longest time, did not believe that the Will Smith Chris Rock slap was real. I thought, they're seeing, bad ratings in real time. and they said, hey, somebody do something crazy to get people, talking about this and watching this. I think, Cole, if there is no such thing as an Epstein list, then there is no such thing as real animosity between Kirk and El. I think that all of this is manufactured off-season BS. There's not a whole lot going on, and ESPN wants to redirect our conversation back to college football.
Maybe so. If that's the case, I guess it's working, right? But look, whether it's manufactured or not, I would hope in this case that it is manufactured because I think Kirk kind of looks silly. Again, I like Kirk. I don't have anything. There's a lot of text, a lot of opinions coming in on this. Joey on Facebook says, Herb Street certainly leans towards Ohio State on games he calls for them and did the same when his boys went to Clemson. I think there's a lot of people on the same side of the opinion as you and I are. On the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, Diesel, let's see here. A lot of texts coming in, Tolo RJ says, this was two texts. Sorry, it got broken up. We are supposed to take Herbie seriously after he got emotional talking about the adversity Ohio State, his alma mater, had to overcome to win last season's national championship. Herbie needs to sit this one out. That comes from Tolo RJ.
Okay. Crying over Ohio State winning a national. Look, I get it. He's a fan. He's an alum. He played football at Ohio State. I understand why Kirk Herbstreit has warm, fuzzy feelings for Ohio State.
Yeah.
And I don't begrudge him that at all. You have those feelings. When your school or your team does something great, you're excited about it. You're extra emotional about it. And that's where the professionalism comes in and your ability to tamp that down as much as you possibly can because you're itching, you're excited to rub it in people's faces. Ha, 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 we won the national championship. We're the best team in college football, whatever it may be, right?
But again, my thing is, and if you Tolos agree or disagree, let me know at 844-326-3663, Diesel. But if you're calling a game and being a homer, then maybe I agree with Herbstreit. But I don't see any evidence out there of L. Duncan calling a game or doing a pregame show or whatever it is of her being biased. JD on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says Kirk is a huge Ohio State homer. Plus, when his kids attended Clemson, he didn't hesitate to sing the praises of Clemson. Kirk clearly has some other issue with L. Duncan because I bet he wouldn't call out a man for the same thing. He's just as guilty as this as anyone. JD also says Cole hates dogs and dumb ones at that. Buckeye Mike says that was a stupid statement from Herbie. And that's a Buckeye fan right there.
Look, Herbie is not immune to stupid statements. Here's another example of Kirk Herbstreit being an absolute idiot.
Players and fans who want to see Virginia Tech and LSU. They don't want to see Appalachian State. They don't want to see easy non-conference games. They want to see big-time games like Cal and Tennessee. I think athletic directors have to listen to the players. And I think it's a mixed bag. You don't have to have all your tough games in a non-conference, but at least one big-time opponent, maybe a second-tier opponent, and then a couple for Lee. I have a couple cupcakes. But other than that, these 1AA teams should not be on the schedule.
By the way, what happened at the end of that 1AA team that shouldn't have been on Michigan's schedule?
Was that the day? Was that the day? Yeah.
That was college game day that day.
What was it, Appalachian? Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Appalachian. That's an oldie right there. That's a throwback. I like that.
I've watched a lot of Kirk Herbstreit called games. I've had the opportunity to co-interview Kirk Herbstreit on this station before. He's a smart guy. He knows football.
Yeah.
He played football. He does as good a job as just about anyone to both be excited and excitable and at the same time minimize as much as one can your individual fandom. I got no problem with hosts being fans if you can rein it in when it's time.
And what I think another interesting point is, Diesel, there are many, many play-by-play announcers out there at the national level, right? There are some that are really good, some that are not so good. But I don't think there are as many that give fans the ammunition that Kirk does. I believe that with Kirk being an Ohio State grad, Diesel, with him having gone there, he opens himself up to a lot of criticism. There's a lot of these play-by-play guys at the national level who went to smaller schools, right? Who went to schools who, don't win national titles in football, right? Maybe are schools that we've never heard of before. So I think Kirk Herbstreit Diesel is a little bit vulnerable in the sense that he does open himself up for this type of criticism. Ultimately, I don't think he cares. You're right. He did pay or had a scholarship to go to Ohio State. I would be proud of my alma mater as well. At the end of the day, though, just a weird shot at Elle Duncan. Again, I think she said it best. Wasn't on my bingo card. Those are two that I never thought we'd say in the same sentence together, but here we are.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people all over social media attacking Elle Duncan because they don't like whatever it is, her politics, and she's been on ESPN forever, so there's waves of different social movements that have come and gone with her being on TV. But it's okay to be a fan. That's my ultimate point. And there's people going after her, attacking her credibility, saying she can't be on a broadcast for SEC games because she's a Georgia homer, because she's a Georgia Bulldog. Look, the fans that dismiss and attack an anchor's credibility because they don't like the team that anchor likes are the same ones who will accept lock, stock, and barrel anything that an anchor that roots for their own team says. So we have to be better at that as well, right? You can't say just because Cole is a Clemson fan, well then Cole's an idiot and can't be fair when it comes to the South Carolina Gamecocks and vice versa.
Oh boy, I made a lot of Clemson fans mad yesterday when I posted that graphic of our our 6 most intimidating environments, Diesel, on the Fan Upstate Facebook page.
Yep.
I had South Carolina in there, posted it on Facebook at the Fan Upstate, and boy, you can piss a Clemson fan off one day and piss a Clemson or a South Carolina fan off the next day. It's that easy.
I think that says a tremendous amount, Cole, about your ability to be neutral.
Yeah.
Right? You're a Clemson fan, and they happen to be 40 miles down the road, and you still didn't put them inside your top 6.
Didn't do it.
Just because you knew that's what the fans wanted to hear.
And did I intentionally post that graphic because I knew that it would stir up some Clemson fans? Of course. I mean, it's almost too easy sometimes. It really is. And again, not dishing on Clemson fans, but all fans can be this way. Sometimes it's just too easy. You throw the little bone out there, Diesel, and start pulling it, and here they come, right? Left and right, especially on Facebook. I don't know why. Facebook is just a cesspool sometimes.
We are in this like list culture, and people are mad because they're on a list, mad because they're not on a list.
It's
What
great.
do you want here?
It's so good. Tolos, do you have an issue with Kirk Herbstreit and Elle Duncan? That's where we are if you had just tuned in. Back to the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. Let's see here. Buckeye Mike says, I agree with him on that. I think 9 conference games, 2 Power 4 out of conference games, and 1 group of 6 or FCS teams. Power 4 teams pay 5% of revenue into a pool for FCS and group of 6 to supplement some money that comes from Buckeye Mike. But again, that clip was what? 10, 15?
Almost 20 years ago.
Has it been that long?
It was 2007. So that clip was 18 years ago.
No way.
Buckeye
There's
Mike.
no way. Has it really been 18 years?
I don't like saying that out loud. I don't, because I was at that game.
18 years.
Yeah.
Since App State beat Michigan. That's crazy. And that was literally the college game day before the game, right?
Yes,
like the same day.
It was.
Same
day. And that was the first ever broadcast on the Big Ten Network.
Who knows, though? And I like if we ever had Kirk Herbstreit on again, I would love one of my questions to him, Diesel, would be: here's that audio from 18 years ago. Do you still feel that way? I mean, he may.
Yeah.
The college football looks a lot different. Than it did 18 years ago.
But to Buckeye Mike's point, there are people who are saying take the FCS and take the group of 6 teams off the schedule completely. You're going to have to get used to losing a couple of more games. When you intentionally schedule harder, when you take away the gimme games, which not all the time, it's not 100% that the gimme games are gimmies, but when you take those away and instead of playing Toledo and Youngstown State, all of a sudden you say, all right, well, let's schedule Boston College and Cal. there's a much better chance that Boston College and Cal could beat you because they got Division I recruits. They got FBS recruits. They've got nowadays NIL money. So you got to get used to maybe losing a couple of those games. You can't all just beat up on I would have said Vandy's of the world, but Vandy's aren't exactly a beat up on team anymore anyway.
No, JD on the YouTube stream says, at the end of the day, every broadcaster or sports talk host is a fan of someone. If they weren't, they probably wouldn't be calling sports.
Exactly.
You're right on that. He also says Cole would never stir this pot just because. Hey, look, I don't do it much. Tiger Stripes Media says, JD, I call you out that you can't talk about the Gamecocks. Evidently, JD lost in a game of college. Is that right? Lost in a game of college football? Was there a bet there? Can y'all enlighten us? Y'all are having this conversation back behind closed doors. We don't know what you're talking about. Diesel and I don't have the nice option of playing college football. You know what we could do? Number one, I don't have time. I tweeted back at somebody today about that. Johnny Carrots, who listens to the show, right? He said that. He was like, all these grown men talking about college football 26 is kind of weird. And I just put back, like, for me, I really sometimes don't have the time. Now, I think I probably would make time because if you get it and like it, something else is going to get neglected, right? If you get the video game. I wish we had
kids, dog.
Yeah.
Has anybody fed Fido today?
Yeah, make sure you make sure you do that.
Could you imagine grown-ass men, like dudes in their 40s back in like 1985, hardcore debating who's better at Frogger or who's better at Pac-Man and spending all their time getting great at that?
Buckeye Mike says he didn't mention Stuart Scott and his UNC love.
Interesting, Buckeye Mike.
Who's he talking about?
Stuart Scott.
No, I know Stuart Scott, but who didn't mention Stuart Scott?
I think he's talking about Kirk there.
Oh, gotcha.
Hey,
Thanks
some people are into, systematic academic fraud. And if you're into that sort of thing, UNC is the team for you.
It really is. It can be your team. And what do you call it? Underwater basket weaving?
Yep.
I still want to take that class.
You got to keep everybody academically eligible.
Yeah. Let's keep the Kirk Herbstreit conversation going, but the conversation does change in a way, Diesel. Tolo's out there. In another recent podcast, I guess Kirk's all over the podcasting world nowadays, Kirk Herbstreit brought to light something really interesting that a fellow employee, fellow coworker of his did. Is this something that you would do at your job? We'll have that audio next. Kirk Herbstreit, he doesn't pay our salary, but he sure is getting a lot of airtime on the fan upstate today. Budget cuts. That's something that no one really loves hearing about, right? Have you, Tolos out there, heard this audio? Kirk Herbstreit was on a podcast a couple of days ago and brought up budget cuts and how one fellow coworker tried to kind of help out and step in an area that was needed. Let's react to what Kirk Herbstreit had to say about Pat McAfee.
Wow, I probably shouldn't say this, but, budget is always a big thing in our industry and trying to cut back on certain things. And they made an announcement they were going to cut back on this and cut back on that. And we were on a Zoom, and Pat was listening to that. And I was listening to that like, why are they cutting back on that? That doesn't make any sense. And Pat decided to say, okay, if you're going to cut back on that, I'll cover that. I'll cover that because the crew, the people around the show, they need to have that. They need to have that.
So, no one's even heard of something like that.
Yeah.
So like,
he's like, I'm. If you guys are going to do your budget thing, I'm taking care of the crew, and everyone was like, wow. And then upper management heard that, and they said, whoa. We don't need Pat to cover that. We'll take care of that and take care. Yeah. So it's like. It's just a whole different set of boundaries, I think.
That you have to learn and adapt as you go.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to take away from that, Diesel. Kind of the first part is what Pat offered to do, and the second part is, we were just kind of making this up. We really didn't need it, but now that you said you're going to cover it, we'll cover it, and you're good. So the first part of what Pat McAfee offered to do there on a production meeting, budget cuts, they're having to cut Kirk and Pat's favorite brand of coffee and granola bars, I'm sure, from the pre-show meetings, right? Pat McAfee offering to step in. There's a lot of people who like Pat McAfee. There's a lot of people out there who really don't like Pat McAfee. But the fact that there are people in the types of roles and positions that Pat McAfee has, Diesel, that still care about the group surrounding him or her is pretty neat to see.
Yeah, look, I've got my issues with Pat McAfee. I think he's over the top. I think he's silly, and to me, it comes across as fake and contrived when it's on the air. A lot of his stuff, not all of his stuff, but a lot of his stuff. But you got to give a guy like that credit when he sees that production crew, staff, are potentially going to lose their jobs, and the company is trying to figure out ways to save money, and they say, all right, we're going to cut, whatever it is, 10 production guys over these 10 shows, and to see a host who's making more money than anybody else on that show step up and say, well, I'll cover that. So if you've got the Pat McAfee show, and he's got a huge, huge production crew, by the way.
Huge.
He's got like the 6 guys that you see in studio, probably, plus another 2 or 3 off camera.
Oh, there's like a whole group of them behind the wall.
And so they say, "Hey, we're gonna fire, we're gonna fire Johnny, the social media guy." Mm-hmm. Well, then his duties are gonna fall on everybody else, right? The job still has to get done. And Pat saying, "Whoa, don't fire him. How much does he make? $40,000 a year, and he's living in New York City. Oh my God, I'll pay his $40,000 a year." So I find that really interesting that management had already decided we're cutting weight, right? We're cutting staff.
Yep.
We're cutting staff instead of going to the guy who's making the most money of anybody on that show and say in advance and saying, "Hey, here's the thing, man. We're really struggling to make budget, and it would help us out a lot if you would take a $75,000 pay cut, and that means that Steve, the social media guy, can keep his job." They don't do that. Right? They just fire him and say, okay, everybody else, you got to pick up the slack.
No, it is, to your point, it is refreshing to see. However, I would say this. I think there are, Diesel, very, very, very talented people on these big network shows. Very talented people.
Sure.
Pat McAfee, whoever Stephen A., whoever it is. Everybody likes a different flavor of ice cream, right? Everybody has their opinions on who they like and who they don't like. I think, for the most part, this is a good reminder out there to not just you and I, but people who are listening to this show and follow sports media outlets and watch ESPN and watch these big networks and watch these big podcasts, it's a good reminder that these staff help the show host improve on what they do on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. You may watch these shows and only see like one person. You may only see Josh Pate or whoever it may be, but newsflash for you, those aren't the only people. He's not doing all the show prep. He's not doing all the tweeting and the social media post and the marketing and the I mean, there's so much that goes into what we do behind the scenes. And these big networks, to your point about Pat, you look at his set, he's got 4, 5, 6 guys right there. And then behind that wall, they'll sometimes show Diesel, he's got another 4 or 5 or 6 guys. There's a lot that goes into a production. And even as you and I do a small production every day, there's still a lot that goes into it. And guess what? On the other side of that wall, there aren't guys over there posting what we say and making graphics. So it's it is a demanding job, and it's nice to have people who do help you out in the process.
So watch the Pat McAfee show.
Yeah.
And imagine if building the set, putting all the stuff on the walls, all the decorations, all that kind of stuff, and running the control board, researching the show, booking the guests, hosting the show live, chopping up all of the audio and video, and posting it to the 15 different social media platforms that they're on. Imagine if Pat had to do all of that by himself. That's a really, really tough ask. By the way, Pat McAfee's salary at ESPN, according to Sports Illustrated, is $17 million a year.
Oh, that's it?
$17 million. Stephen A. makes $20 million a year.
I think Stephen A. is the highest paid at ESPN.
Yeah.
One of the highest paid.
So you got a guy that's making $17 million. When management says, hey, we're running $1.5 million over our budget on staff, we're going to have to fire some people. Pat says, okay, pay me $15.5. I'll cover the rest. And it's fascinating to me that we don't see this more often. We kind of saw something similar to this with Mike Norvell in Florida State, where he said he would put money into the NIL. So he's taking care of the budget shortfalls, and Pat McAfee is doing the same thing. You know, I give him a lot of credit. It also makes you ask, what if ESPN just didn't pay their mainstay hosts $17 and $20 million a year? What if they paid them, I don't know, 15 and 15, and then you're saving that $17 million a year combined, and you can pay your staff with that.
The $354,000 that Pat McAfee makes every week, again, the $354,000 paycheck that Pat McAfee collects every single week, that's $354,000 Diesel. I think he can afford of that 300. I mean, let's just think 1 week's paycheck. 1 week's paycheck can cover those other guys out there. Can cover those lowly social media guys who are back there working for $60,000. 1 week's paycheck can cover their salary for the entire year. That's what's wild about it.
Yeah. So again, credit to Pat. And it kind of lets you into the mindset of the corporate suits who are the ones making these kinds of decisions. They pre-decided that they were cutting staff. Instead of going to their main hosts that are making the most money and saying, "Hey, would you mind taking $1 million a year pay cut so we can pay the staff?" They just decided we're just going to go ahead and cut them, and y'all deal with it.
Yeah, they did. T. Swizzle brings up Pat on College Game Day, and I believe T. Swizzle is a fan. Kirk Herbstreit also went on to talk about Pat McAfee on College Game Day in this same clip.
Amen. And he just brings some authentic energy. I'm talking off the air, like in the meetings, during the week, on the Zoom calls.
Stoked.
You could say whatever you want about, he wears tank tops and yells and takes his shirt off. But what you miss is the prep that he does. What I think all of us on the show, because we work our ass off on that show, is how hard he works. As much as he's doing his Monday through Friday show, he shows up on game day, and he's not just taking his shirt. Like, if you actually listen to what he's saying, clearly he's done his homework. And I think that's why those of us on the set, number one, we love him and his personality, but we really respect that he shows up ready to go.
So you're saying, Kirk, that Pat came in and outworked you, did more show prep than you? Is that what you're saying?
Does he respect Pat getting absolutely bleep-faced in Ireland and
Probably.
cursing on the air like 5 or 6 times? Is that the kind of show prep that you're talking about, Kirk?
I don't know. Look, I think he has his own way of broadcasting. It's almost as if he's created a new broadcast, right? This new style where he does go to Ireland. What were they there for? Notre Dame or something?
Notre Dame,
first game of
Georgia
the
Tech.
year? Yeah, first game of the year, right? So he has this style that I think the reason it works, Diesel, is because you have so many people that don't like it, but you have so many people that do like it. And I don't know if there are more people that do like it than don't, but he is just polarizing to the point where you either love him or you either hate him, right? There is no in between with Pat McAfee.
They brought a flamboyant, and I don't say this necessarily negatively. They brought a clown onto the show. He's goofy. He's over the top. He ruffles feathers. It's what he does, right? But they brought in the foil for that being Nick Saban. Mr. Straight down the middle, straight-laced, uber prepared, greatest coach in college football history, and those two play off of each other.
Yeah.
And when that's the great part. Like, you don't have to agree with and love everything somebody says on the show, but when you have a foil for that argues your side of it, instead of turning all of them, instead of turning Desmond and turning Kirk and turning, well, now Lee's not on the show anymore, but instead of having them all turn into goofy parodies and of Pat McAfee, you bring on a guy like Nick. I thought that was a brilliant play on each other, and Pat was able to get Nick to loosen up quite a bit, and when Nick goes into hardcore football analyst mode, he can rein Pat's craziness in there too.
And I think that camaraderie, Diesel, between the two is kind of what made Game Day elevate from, again, Lee Corso, you could say he built Game Day. It was such an integral part. But when you look at moments of like Pat McAfee last year on set and that jet bomber flying over, and they're in the middle of talking and all of a sudden they're like, little kids looking at the airplane in the sky, or Pat McAfee handing a rib and feeding Nick Saban and Nick Saban eating the rib that Pat McAfee. It's just stuff like that I think so good for Game Day, because ultimately, guess what? People do get old. I mean, and Lee's gotten old, and he's just no longer that same guy.
And they figured out what that show is. That show is entertainment. That show is pregame. And I know that sounds obvious to say, but like, how much analysis can you really give on a show that's designed to get people excited? Analysis can sometimes be kind of boring. So you have these goofy, over-the-top characters that make people tune in and watch all the time, right? I mean, from the beginning of the show to the end of the show. How many times would you tune in and say, "Oh, I'm a Big Ten fan, but they're talking about the Big 12. I'm not gonna watch this." Well, their goofy, over-the-top personalities will get you to sit and watch through Big 12 game predictions or ACC predictions, because they make something that you're not all that interested in entertaining to watch.
Tolo's a big show coming your way. Before Diesel asks you, Tolo's out there, a question in the very next segment. I have a question at 4 o'clock about Paul Skeens. We have a couple of guests on the show today. Haley Martin, new athletic director at Mountain View Prep. I was there for her press conference this morning. She'll join us at 4:20. What the month of July looks like for us. We have a busy month. 4:45, we'll talk about that. Kirk Cousins holding his emotions back. Ramon Robinson, RR Elite Academy. We love having Ramon on, Diesel. And it's been, do you realize when I was texting him this morning, it's been 6.5 months since we've had Ramon on the show.
Really?
Yes. It's
Wow.
crazy. We have Daily Wires
January.
coming up. Ramon's one of our favorite guests ever, so he'll join us to get us in a little football mode. A loaded show coming your way, but are you going to bring the mood down in the next segment? Are you going to? Is that what
Yeah, I kind of am, but it's not me bringing the mood down. They brought the mood down. You guys you want us to talk about it. I'm not entirely sure why, but the Atlanta Braves, are they worth talking about right now, and what could happen over the next 3 games that could cause us to stop talking about them all together for the rest of the season. Are you in with that? We'll talk about it next. So we brought this up on the show a couple of times over the past few weeks, Cole. This time of year, there's not a lot going on in sports. Everybody knows that, right? NBA's done, NHL is done. Wimbledon is happening, but nobody cares about that.
Doesn't he play for
College
the
football is
Spurs?
still a few weeks away. And the Atlanta Braves stink. So the question is, Tolos, do you want us to keep digging that hole deeper and deeper and deeper when it comes to covering the Atlanta Braves? 4-9 over their last 13 games. That's their last 4 series. Why it's an odd number is because they played 4 games against the Mets on the road a couple weeks ago. So that's why it's 13 games instead of 12. 4-9 in their last 4 series. They stink on the road. They stink at home. And Cole, the analysis on their upcoming series against the terrible Athletics is also not good because the Braves can't win a road game. 39-50 are the Braves. 37-55 are the A's. Atlanta is way below 500 on the road, and the A's are way below 500 at home. So why would anyone watch this game? Why would anyone intentionally try to make themselves miserable by covering this team?
Misery does love company, right? That's one fact. The second thing I would bring up, Diesel, is imagine what it would be like if you hosted a sports talk show in Atlanta. And this was...
You had to.
Like, this was all you were talking to was Falcons fans, Braves fans, right? Hawks fans. It's
Boss, I'm going to have
tough.
to take some mental health days off. How about that?
Yeah, it's tough because as a Braves fan, like, here's where I find myself. I don't know, like T Swizzle brought it up on the stream about how bad they are. JD brought it up as well. I find myself as a Braves fan kind of like doing this. You close your eyes, and you kind of like peek over, right? And you don't really want to look at the devastation. You don't really want to look at what's happening. But guess what? You still look. You still I don't know why. You can't just, it's like a drug, I guess, but ultimately they are bad. And you brought it up going into the commercial break. If they somehow, some way bomb these next 3, yeah, it might be time just to go ahead and make some changes. But the Braves are in an interesting spot. The division's kind of wacky right now. Like the division started out really good. Now the division's not good. So we don't really know as much about the division right now as we thought we would.
So just for the sake of argument, I asked ChatGPT, what's going to happen in this upcoming Braves Athletics series? And again, the A's are terrible. Should be a series that you win 2 out of 3 or maybe even sweep on the road, right? Madcraft reminds us all the time. They're loaded with talent. They've got the talent to beat. They should absolutely dominate these A's. But they've got the Braves losing in game 1.
ChatGPT does?
Yeah, Didier Fuentes, he's been getting knocked all over the park. Jeffrey Springs is on the bump today for Oakland. He's a better pitcher than Fuentes is. Game 2, they've got Bryce Elder versus Mitch Spence. And Bryce Elder's got a high ERA, so they got Oakland winning game 2. And then the Braves bouncing back with Spencer Strider, needing an ace to stave off the sweep on the road.
Avoiding the sweep is what you're saying.
That's the goal, is avoiding the sweep. So I think if the Athletics win 2 out of 3 against these Braves, shut it down.
If they
just
win
not
2 out
talk
of 3,
baseball for the rest of the year.
You've got to make a. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to fire Snitker. I don't think they will. I don't think it.
Like, what does it take though?
I know.
If that's not enough, you know what'll happen is they'll lose 2 out of 3 to the A's, and then they'll win 2 out of 3 or sweep the Cardinals. Not that the Cardinals are world beaters right now. They're a couple games over 500, but they're not tearing the cover off the ball. They will sweep them.
Let me ask you this question. This is the most important question. You brought up ChatGPT. Somebody made fun of me the other day for saying this. Do you refer to ChatGPT as a he or a her?
It's neither.
See, I refer to it as a her.
Why?
Like
because
I said,
it's always wrong?
You said that. You said that. I mean, I just said like she said, and they're like, who is she? And I was like, ChatGPT. I was like, why is it a she? Siri's a she. Alexa's a she. don't you just think of ChatGPT as being a she?
Are there any of
Male?
Yeah, there's no
AI?
male AI voices.
That's
out
what
there.
I'm saying.
When you turn on your smart speaker or you turn on whatever it is, it's always a female voice. It's never a
Always
male
female.
voice.
That's why.
Why is that?
That's why I just naturally referred to it as a she.
But
Somebody
you
got
can
onto me.
download Snoop Dogg's voice to give you turn-by-turn directions.
And I think even
Turn left where that drive-by happened last week.
I think Siri has different voices now. My Alexa the other day told me that she has a different voice too. So Alexa can change. JD says ChatGPT can be a female because it knows everything. Wow, this is welcome to the sexist show, right? I mean, I
sexy
love
show? Right
the
on.
sexist or sexy, right? Depending on how you look at it. All right, let's run to a break on that note. Diesel, coming up, we have 3 hours left. Holos want to hear from you at 844-326-3663. Speaking of baseball, Paul Skeens has a stat that's not real good right now concerning his wins and losses. We'll talk about that and ask the question if win-loss stat for a pitcher should count as much as it does for other players in other sports. That's next. want to get into this Paul Skeens stat because I heard this maybe yesterday, Diesel. When you look at what Paul Skeens is able to do on the mound, but for whatever reason, his win-loss record not reflecting his true talent. So we'll go there in just a second. Want to hear from you, Tolos, at 844-326-3663. And we may get there in 2 minutes. We may get there in 10 minutes. But, Diesel, I want to tell you and the Tolos that I am a big proponent of trying new things in life, right? Mm-hmm. You tell me I need to be more versed in watching movies. I'd like to think one day I will be, but trying new things in life is something that I think is a good thing, as long as it's a good thing that you're trying, right? We're not advocating for trying new drugs or anything like that. But for the first time, I don't know, maybe we're so busy in life that we don't have enough first-time moments enough, but Saturday, I am doing something for the very first time. How many times in your life do you do something for the very first time? I think that we probably all get too busy, caught up in work and our daily routine that we don't do things for the very first time enough. I'm jumping out of an airplane on Saturday.
What?
Yep.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm not being forced to.
No.
What do you mean why? What do you mean why?
Like what?
Skydiving,
what
Diesel.
What tangible benefit do you gain in your life from jumping out of a plane? None.
Tangible benefit.
You get that feeling of your you-know-what's flying up to your throat.
But do you not have a desire to do that?
No.
You have no desire to jump.
Whatsoever.
No desire to skydive.
None.
I can't wait.
Not going to happen.
I literally, Diesel, cannot wait. I'll tell you this, no lie. I'm looking forward to it more than I've looked forward to, a regular hobby in a long time. Maybe it's something I'll get into. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'll do it one time and be done with it. But skydiving's always been something that I've wanted to do. You're how many over 1,000 feet in the air? Do you think how
long does it take to touch the ground once you jump out of that plane?
That's a good question. If I had to guess, I'd say it probably feels like a lot longer than it really is. Maybe a couple of minutes.
Typical skydive.
I'm going to guess a minute and a half.
Lasts between 5 and 7 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Approximately 45 to 60 seconds of free fall, and then about 5 minutes under the parachute.
5
So
minutes.
you fall for about a minute, you pull the ripcord, hopefully it opens, and then you float down to the ground for about 6 minutes.
Hopefully. Thanks for that, by the way.
God.
Hopefully it opens.
See, that's the thing, man. I've been, zip lining and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't trust the equipment to function the way that it's supposed
to. But there's a backup.
But what if the backup fails? See, you ever go to a theme park and you're on a roller coaster and you think, how many times has this car, how many times has it gone down this ramp and put stress on that same bolt over and over and over again? And what if today is the day? Today is the day that bolt says, I've had enough, shears off, and you are nosediving into the ground.
Well, it could happen. But you could also get on 85 and die on 85 tonight, right?
Your steering components could fail on you, and that's what happens. I am happy to say that there are plenty of things that I'm a wuss at and just won't do. I ain't going skydiving. I don't love, theme parks for that reason.
I don't like theme parks either.
I know people that have worked at and repaired theme park rides. And I don't trust those people with my life.
So let me ask you this question. If your wife, let's say, your wife's always your biggest, your convincer, right? She's the convincer. If she did it and she told you how fun it was,
Nope.
Could she talk you into it?
Nope.
You don't think there's any way?
Not going to do it.
No way.
She's tried, as a matter of fact. She's asked me about it. She goes, we should go skydiving.
So she'd do it?
No.
She would do it, you think?
I think she would.
I think
she would. I understand that, for the first, whatever it is, 10, 15 times you go, you have to go with somebody who's experienced, right? But that doesn't change the thing. No.
Yeah, in tandem, right?
Yeah, you got to go in tandem with an instructor who knows what they're doing, who knows how to fix the problem. But then again, you hear the stories, Cole, and this happened like 10 years ago. A guy had been skydiving
Don't tell me this story.
So many times he'd gone skydiving that it was so second nature to him that on his last skydive, he jumped out of the plane without a parachute. Like, he thought he had one on. Like, he thought he had a parachute on. He didn't. Like, this is the kind of guy that will go skydiving like 3 times a day.
That's crazy.
Ridiculous. Plus, how much does it cost? A couple $100?
Yeah, like $260.
$250 to have somebody push your ass out
Now,
of a plane.
I will say for the
I
record.
could save my $250 and stay on the ground.
For the record, it was given to me as a birthday gift.
Oh, that's nice.
So my birthday's Friday. Saturday, I'm going to jump out of a plane, and I'm looking forward to it. I may hate it. By the way, I didn't realize the parachute goes, and you're still going for 5. That seems like a long time.
Yeah,
5 minutes.
I've not saying it's the same thing, right? But I've been like parasailing, where they hook you up to the back
I've
of
never
a boat,
done that.
and you're up. You're a couple hundred feet in the air.
Yeah,
hanging from a harness. But like again, what if today's the day? I'm not even worried if the rope snaps, because you still got a parachute that's going to float you down to the water. But like, what if today's the day that the harness that they put you on just says, zzz, and you're falling?
It could be. It could be. But
Man, no.
maybe you're doing the show solo Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday
Forever.
until there's a new co-host that doesn't like to skydive. Right? I'm just saying.
Cole comes in a full body cast.
All right, look,
So you don't even have to tell us how skydiving went, Cole.
I'll say this. I love adrenaline rushes, right? We all do. I love hunting. I love fishing for those reasons. There's few things that give me an adrenaline rush, like going, to Arkansas and hunting in the swamp, waiting on ducks to fly in the morning. But this one might be an all-timer. The adrenaline rush that you get from jumping out of a plane, it might be an all-timer. Speaking of all-timers, let's go to the phone lines, 844-326-3663. We did not hear from Dewey yesterday, but Dewey has graced us, Diesel, with his presence today. What's up, Dewey?
Yes. If you're going to go skydiving, you need to make sure you pull the cord. If not, you're going to go splash.
I don't pull it. I'm pretty sure Diesel, you would think that the instructor pulls it, right?
Yes. They might give you the option to pull it.
No, I'm good. I don't want to pull
You
it.
pull it immediately.
No, I don't want to pull it. I don't want to pull it.
If you go splat, it might not hurt because it'll happen so fast.
That's true. Thanks for that.
Yeah,
Thanks,
but
Dewey.
you got about 4 minutes to think about it on your way down.
Yeah. But anyways, you talk about Paul Schemes or whatever his name is. You got his win-loss record is a reflective of his team because the Pirates suck.
Okay. And Dewey, we're going to get to that. Go ahead.
Anyways, yeah. The ERA is more important.
Okay.
Whatever that is. I don't know what that is. But
We'll tell you. We'll tell you what it is.
Pirates suck.
Hey, Dewey, before we let you go, if you jumped out of a plane and your parachute didn't come out and you had 4 minutes, to Diesel's point, to think about something for 4 minutes, it'd be the last 4 minutes of your brain ever working. What would you be thinking about for those final 4 minutes?
Probably going, oh, splat.
That's a soundbite. That's a soundbite. One more time, Dewey. What was that?
Splat.
Thank you, Dewey.
Oh my God! Thanks, Dewey.
That's going on a promo.
That's gotta get that.
Oh
That's
my God.
I don't know. How do you come back and talk sports after that? Paul Schemes. Oh my God, that's insane. Thanks,
sounded
Dewey.
like a Wile E. Coyote cartoon.
I don't know. But anyways, nonetheless, we'll see how it goes. Corn Chip says, I'll take my chances. At Carowinds, 300 feet in the air, over 1,000 feet of skydiving. Jeff R. says it's fun. I'm assuming he's talking about skydiving. Let's see. Another texter from the 803 says, I got gifted skydiving for my 18th birthday. It was an awesome experience. You're going to love it. I felt a tug on my right side about a minute in free fall, and then a second tug on my right side, and then a third tug on my left before the parachute came out. Turns out the instructor had to use the secondary chute, but still super fun.
No! See, that's why. That's why.
Oh, boy.
That's why. I won't do it.
I wish that text wouldn't have came. I'm not going to lie to you.
My buddy shredded his quad muscle landing in skydiving. I mean, jacked his leg up for months.
Really? Just
months.
landing wrong on it, you think?
Yeah.
Oh,
And he was flying. He was skydiving in tandem.
Don't tell him. I should have brought this.
Maybe he didn't follow the instructions, right? Maybe he didn't tuck and roll the way that you're supposed to.
I have heard people breaking their ankles when landing. So here's the question. Before we move on to Paul Skeens, Monday when I walk in the studio, do you think, yes or no, I will be injured to any degree?
No, you're going to be fine.
You think so?
You're going to be fine.
Now, dead doesn't mean injured.
Well.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
How many different prayers are you going to come up with from the time you leave the ground to the time you're back on the ground?
It's a good question. It's a good question. Listen, I'll tell you this. When that parachute pulls, though, buddy, I'll be so happy. I'll be so happy. I'll be as happy as I've ever been when I feel that parachute pull. I don't know. Hopefully it does. We'll find out Monday. Diesel, Paul Skeens. Dewey brought it up. I teased it about 12 minutes ago before we got on the skydiving. But Paul Skeens has a 1.84 ERA.
Pretty good.
Really good.
Yeah.
But his win-loss record, it's not trending well. At one point this season, it was 1-5. Paul Skeens, Diesel, you're talking about 295 strikeouts over 2 seasons. He's 4-7, I believe now. Total win-loss record, again, 1.94 ERA. He's 8th in the National League in strikeouts. But there's been a lot of criticism from the baseball guys out there of Paul Skeens' win-loss record. The question is, to you and the Tolos out there, Dewey already answered it on the phone lines at 844-FAN-PHONE. Does the win-loss record for a guy like Paul Skeens reflect his talent?
No.
You don't think so?
No, it doesn't. He's great, and Dewey brought it up very succinctly. Paul Skeens is great. The Pirates suck. They're not giving him any help whatsoever. I think you look at his average number of strikeouts per game. You look at base on balls. You look at his ERA. You look at all those kind of things and say, these are the stats that really matter. And those are the stats that are going to get him eventually traded to the destination of his choice.
Oh, Atlanta Braves? Come on.
Well,
come on. Give me something on this.
We can bring it up a little bit later. I don't want to derail the conversation here, but there is currently a story posted on ESPN.com where Jeff Passan is coming up with cockamamie NBA-style trades.
Yeah.
Like, Paul Skeens is great. Where could he go? And now they're putting together like 3-4 team trades to get Paul Skeens out. Once to the Mets, once to the Dodgers, once to the Tigers.
God, the three. I mean, come on, we just send them all the good teams. The Braves need them.
Sorry, it was David Schoenfield. There's a photo of Jeff Passan at the top of this.
Yeah.
But this particular article was David Schoenfield.
So that's, we kind of talked about it like with that poster that's over there behind you several months ago that Rob Brown put up about quarterback. I'm looking at it. Quarterbacks, wins and losses are not a quarterback stat. Remember we had that conversation back in the fall or whenever Rob Brown put that wonderful poster up behind you, Diesel. I think it kind of applies to this as well, Tolos. Do you consider – because when you look at a player's stats, Diesel, it does show his win-loss record. Like you mentioned, the pitching matchup tonight for the Atlanta Braves as they're taking on the A's out in Oakland, I do believe. When you look and you click on the game, for example, tonight, 10:05, Braves and Athletics, you see Fuentes versus Jeffrey Springs. You know what the very first statistic that pops up is? Win-loss. Sure. Fuentes is 0-2. Jeff Springs is 6-6 on the season. Win-loss record is the first stat that shows up on the ESPN app. So how much do you, because I asked if you base the win-loss record on reflecting his talent, how much stock do you put in, how much stock, Tolos, do you put in to a pitcher having a bad win-loss record? Because to Dewey's point, the Pirates aren't good. Is there any, in your mind, Diesel, I'd love to hear from the Tolos as well, is there any statistical evidence in your thought process of a pitcher that does have a a really bad win-loss record needing to improve?
Well, it depends on the games, right? You can say it's a very simplistic stat, the way that it's calculated, and it is. You can have a great game. You can go out and throw 6 really good innings where you had the lead and you pitched well, and then still get the loss, right?
Yeah.
It can still happen. So it's when it's looked at in such simplistic terms, you can say it's not a valuable stat, or it doesn't fully and accurately, display the whole picture. But to Rob Sine over here, quarterback wins and losses, not a quarterback stat, asked Miami and Cam Ward. Can you not put a couple of the wins on Cam Ward? Can you not put a couple of the losses on Cam Ward? I think it depends very specifically on the individual talent, the type of game that they played, and it is just reality. These are team games, and you can have a great game, and your team screws things up for you. DB misses an easy pickoff. Suddenly they're going downfield into the end zone for a touchdown. Boom, you've just lost the game, but it's no fault of your own.
I do agree with what you say there. I kind of look. It goes back to, for me, Diesel. It kind of goes back to the quarterbacks, the interceptions conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago, where I said that every quarterback's interception should be viewed differently, as an independent case study almost, right? Because if a quarterback throws the ball and it bounces off the receiver's hands and into the arms of a defender and they take it back for an interception that leads to a touchdown, that's a pick six against the quarterback, but it's an independent case study where it really wasn't the quarterback's fault. I think you're right. I think with a guy like Paul Skeens, we all know there's a ton of talent there. The ERA is just off the books. The strikeouts, he's 8th best in the National League, I believe is what I said. Strikeouts are really good. So I think you do have to look at it as a game-by-game case study, if you will. But for me, ultimately, it comes down to run support. I remember as a Braves fan not too long ago, back in the days before the rebuild, when Julio Teheran was the pitcher, Diesel. Julio Teheran was, I think he's still pitching for somebody. He was one of the better pitchers in the MLB, but guess what? Julio Teheran never got. It never got run support. And run support in baseball, like, while I said and still stand by baseball being an individual-on-individual type game, boy, as much as it is an individual performance-based game, it's still a team game at the end of the day.
Maybe they need to adjust the way they calculate wins and losses and attribute them to pitchers, right? Maybe instead of wins and losses, it's quality outing versus poor outing, So you can go out there, if you're Paul Skeens, you can have a great game, give up just one run in 6 or 7 innings, and your team loses the ball game. You shouldn't be penalized for that in a win-loss record. Maybe they look at it and say, well, over the course of this particular outing, it was essentially a good outing or a bad outing. Mm-hmm. And instead of, take the team element out of it and put the performance strictly on you. Was it an above average or below average for you performance?
It's interesting. Paul Skeens, I think the eye test also matters. I think if you watch the game of baseball, Diesel, you have to look at the reality of the eye test shows you that Paul Skeens, with his ball placement, his velocity, he's a really good pitcher. He might be one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. But what he's not on a good team. And whether you like it or not, that hurts him. And you know what? Paul Skeens, to your point, might end up somewhere one day where he is on a good team.
He's going to look great in a LA Dodgers uniform in a couple years.
Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
It's just a fact,
Don't do that. Diesel, earlier today I was at Mountain View Prep, which is a charter school, newer charter school here in Spartanburg, where Haley Martin was introduced as the AD, taking over for Gray Ramsey, who's still the football coach. We have Haley Martin joining us next. She was formerly at Limestone University. How about 2 days in a row, not on purpose, we've had 2 former Limestone coaches and ADs on the show. We'll talk about Mountain View Prep athletics and what that entails, being an athletic director in today's world at the high school level, next with Haley Martin. Keeping it local in this very segment on the Fan Upstate as we bring on Haley Martin, the new athletic director at Mountain View Prep over in Spartanburg, MVP as it's known, as we do cover MVP in our coverage area. And, man, what a good job they've done in the past year, just coming onto the scene and already racking up some state championships. But Haley Martin spent some time at Limestone University. We'll talk about that, but also her new gig at Mountain View Prep. Haley, do you get tired of people asking about, past roles that you've had, especially when, in your instance, a university like Limestone has closed its doors? I'm sure that was a rough chapter for you and so many others. Does it bother you when people like me still ask you about it?
No, absolutely not. I think, to me personally, what is going to keep Limestone relevant and keep the Limestone legacy alive is for us to just keep talking about it. We did a lot of great things there. Was a pillar of the community education and the athletic scene for many years. And, still very, sad that it happened the way that it did, but incredibly thankful that Limestone was a huge part of my life. I learned everything that I know about athletics from Limestone and from the leaders before me at Limestone who helped build Limestone where it was and laid the foundation for something great. And I hope that I can be that person for Mountain View Prep.
Haley, it's Diesel here. Thank you for taking the time to jump on with us for the first time. It's fascinating that you're seeing essentially your situation play out across college athletics. I mean, you're seeing Power 4 programs who are hiring GMs coming in from the professional ranks to run their system. You're coming from a Division II school to run a high school program that's really doing great things already. What do you think it is about seeing so many people essentially take a step down, but to enhance what these smaller programs are doing? Why do you think it's happening kind of all over the place?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, necessarily consider it a step down. I'm considering this a step across to a different, avenue of athletics. I think that athletics in general, whether it be youth, recreation, intercollegiate, interscholastic, it's a business. And it's a big business. And I think, too, that a person with that mindset and somebody who has a proven track record is what people are looking for, because at the end of the day, like I said, it's a business. And honestly, it does take a lot. The administrative side of athletics, just in general, I believe is a pretty heavy lift.
When you look at Mountain View Prep, Haley, obviously there are things that attracted you to the job as you were introduced this morning in a press conference as new athletic director at Mountain View. But what do you think there will be in terms of challenges, because it is still a new school, even though they were uber successful in athletics in their first season? What do you think it'll be that you may not have encountered before that you kind of look at as a challenge, but something that you look forward to?
I think one of the biggest challenges right now is, having people, especially, I would say the schools in the upstate, understand that, yes, we are a competitor, but I feel like there's enough space for all of us here to be successful. And I think the greatest challenge right now is, finding some games and getting some schedules laid out for our JV and our middle school programs, because we are not part of a conference. And, the scheduling has been difficult. Now, what I can say is that at Limestone, we encountered very similar situation, especially in football over the last couple of years. Our first, I'd say 6, 7, 8 years of football, we were everyone's homecoming game. And those last 2, 3 years, for me to find a non-conference game and find someone to play. So that's a challenge I'm looking forward to. Again, I really look forward to meeting the other athletic directors, especially in our region and in our in the South Carolina High School League and in our classification, and collaborating. I would love to learn from them. see what they do at their schools and their institutions, what works for them. So I definitely think right now that that's one of the biggest challenges we have facing us. And again, just getting out there, charter schools, it's a new thing. I think it's something that potentially maybe people just don't know about. And just getting it out there that, again, Mountain View Prep is just another choice that students here in the upstate and in the state have. And I feel like parents, as a parent myself, before I even took this position, my son was going to attend Mountain View Prep because I enjoy and I really believe in what they are doing and that career in technology integrated into education. So I'm just really excited to, maybe get out there and be able to educate people and kind of get to know people and see if we can and form a better bond than I think what is going on right now.
Haley, we were lucky enough to have one of your former colleagues on our show yesterday, Kyle Perry, who's now the new head coach at Converse University men's basketball team. And I asked him, what are the hallmarks of a Kyle Perry-led team? What is the personality of this team going to be? What do you want it to look like? So I'm going to ask you a similar question. What kind of stamp is Haley Martin looking to put on what MVP does? What are the hallmarks of MVP athletics under Haley Martin?
A very competitive program, but a program also that values sportsmanship, a program that values just the holistic development of the student athlete, and fun. I think my my staff and my coaches and those who worked with me for several years and then were under me for the last 2.5 years as the athletic director at Limestone would say that I'm really big on supporting each other. And so I want our football team, I want everybody to go to a football game on a Friday night, but in turn, I want our football team and those fans to come and support our cheer program. I want, people to be at our tennis games or our tennis matches. And so I think a hallmark there is going to be just supporting one another. So stars supporting stars, like I used to say, saints supporting saints, good sportsmanship and very competitive.
Haley, you brought up something really interesting in that last question that I had for you about kind of your job in educating people with the situation that Mountain View Prep is in. It's no secret that when Mountain View Prep opened, there were a lot of people who were against it. And, when it comes to athletics and especially football, people opposed it. But you do see people like yourself sending your kids to go to school there. When you look at this situation that Mountain View Prep is in and what you have the potential to do from an athletic standpoint, whether it be education or just enlightening people, what do you feel like you and others can do in terms of kind of changing the narrative? Because I know that's not like your number one objective in your role and in all the other roles with the principal and the people who started the school and everything like that, but the narrative of changing it in terms of it being something that's talked about in a positive light. How do you feel like you can affect that?
I think we just have to keep telling our story and showing what we do well. And I think what we do well is we've attracted really amazing coaches. And I've met several of the teachers as well that we have on staff, really amazing educators. And so I think continuing to just highlight that, we're new, we're a charter school, but at the end of the day, we're a school, right? We are public education. And we are here to educate our next generation and to create, the next leaders. And so, I just think that continuing to tell that story and highlighting what we do well, and like I said, I'm very big on collaboration. I think our South Atlantic Conference that we were members of at Limestone University was a very competitive Division II conference, one of the best in the country. But I think, my colleagues would say that we work together. As a new AD, it was nothing for me to pick up the phone and call the AD at Wingate, call the AD at Lenore Ryan, Newberry, in-state rival and say, hey, you have this situation going on. How did you handle it? What are you doing? And I think that if we can all just continue to collaborate and know we're all doing the same thing, and our number one goal is the students and making sure that they have a positive experience, I think that we can all cooperate and work together, right?
Talking to Haley Martin, the new athletic director at Mountain View Prep up there in Spartanburg County. Last year, Gray Ramsey was pulling double duty as coach and AD. Talk about how his role changes now that you're stepping in, able to take some of the athletic director elements off of his plate, what it simplifies for him, gives him time to focus on, and what you're now able to do for MVP that maybe he didn't have as much time as he would like to dedicate 100% focus on doing as an administrator.
Well, like I said this morning in the press conference, I mean, hats off to Gray. What he did and was able to do coming in as the new football coach, the new AD, and everyone there, was establishing new programs. And being able to juggle that. When I first started as an athletic administrator, I was also coaching myself, and I did that for a year, and it was very, very difficult. I could not imagine, and I had 35 student athletes. I could not imagine, having to split my day between caring for over 100 athletes, but then also making sure that all of the athletes in our department and coaches and families and everyone was taken care of. So I think what he was able to do and how successful his program was able to be this year speaks to the quality of person that he is, the quality of coach that he is. And me coming in is not saying that he did anything wrong. It was just saying that we recognize that for us to grow, it had to be a standalone position.
Haley, can you speak on, and if not, it's okay, I just am curious and haven't heard. I should have asked you this question this morning, but can you speak on the situation with Mountain View Prep and their charter, with it previously being Limestone? There's probably a lot of people out in our audience that don't even know how that works. So if you could just explain what that is from a charter standpoint, with these schools like MVP having to have a charter, and what the next steps are for a school like MVP looking for a charter since Limestone closed down.
Yeah, so Limestone was the authorizer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Limestone was the authorizer of the Limestone Charter, and then you have the Limestone Charter Association. So the Limestone Charter Association is still intact right now. Angel Malone is the superintendent for that. She does an amazing job, a wonderful educator, wonderful woman. And so she has been working diligently with legislators and different institutions who are potentially interested in taking the Limestone Charter Association under them to become authorizers. So we're hoping that something is announced very soon. Right now, I know that the state legislation approved a proviso where the Charter Association can still operate for at least another year. And so schools have until December to find another authorizer, but all have stated that once the LCA picks up or is picked up by another authorizer, that they would stay on with LCA. Because I've met all of the employees there, and they're wonderful people. And again, what they are trying to do is not change anything, but just offer more choices for students in the state of South Carolina.
Haley, we've had the opportunity to do multiple live shows up there in Spartanburg, and Cole and I notice when we see somebody walking, for example, through an Ingalls where we do our live shows, wearing Mountain View Prep gear. And it's awesome to see that stuff out in public. Number one, the color scheme is fantastic. It's got kind of a Miami Dolphins thing. But what's it like trying to grow the presence of MVP, a brand new school in an area, especially Spartanburg County, but just the upstate of South Carolina, where people love representing their schools? You see high school gear all over the place. What's it like trying to get that logo, get those colors out as much as possible?
I think, again, like I said, telling our story, making use of our social media, digital media, making sure that our content is great. I think that's really going to help us continue to promote the brand of MVP. And I think too, and you and I both know that the more we keep winning and the bigger we grow, the bigger the brand will become. In 2010, our previous VP of Intercollegiate Athletics and his administration rebranded our logo for Limestone Athletics. And it took a little bit of time for people to understand that our fast floor was Limestone University. And I remember I would wear, even here in Bowling Springs where I live, I would wear my Limestone logo with just the fast floor on it. And people would always ask, well, where is that? Well, and then the last 5 years, I could wear that around and everybody would say, oh, Limestone, yeah, my brother plays, baseball there. My sister goes here. My dad graduated from the online program there. So I'm really hoping that after a couple of years, that'll be the same thing for Mountain View Prep, that when we have on that teal and orange star that people say, oh, okay, I know where that school is. That is the school that has a great academic success, but also elite athletics as well.
Haley, congratulations again on the role. We appreciate your time and look forward to doing it again real soon.
All right, Cole, thank you. Anytime, give me a call. I would be happy to promote Mountain View Prep.
Haley Martin, if you, Tolos out there, did not see the press release, you can see it on our website, thefanupstate.com, as you, Tolos, need to be doing. You need to be scouring that website. A lot of stuff about the Braves on thefanupstate.com.
I can't imagine, as she alluded to there, just the workload, the tremendous workload that Gray Ramsey had on himself last year. Being a football coach, it's hard enough, by the way.
Yeah, starting a program.
Starting a program from scratch. By the way, took it to 12-1 in his first year. Pretty solid start, I may say so myself. But to be able to take the administration of an entire athletic department off of his shoulders, let him focus on being just a football coach. I'm sure he's going to have other duties there as well. But, being able to focus on being a football coach, look out, anybody that ends up on Mountain View Prep's schedule, because they are loaded with talent and they are coming after you.
Diesel, you and I have a busy July. Tolos, it's important for you to know where we'll be, where you can come see us, and what we'll be doing this month. We'll tell you what our July looks like at Slam Pack. That's next. Well, there might not be a lot of sports going on, but Diesel, I can tell you what is happening in the month of July. It's a busy month for you and I, and we would like to invite a new Tolo to come out and say hello to Diesel and I. Not win a gift card, just walk by, shout out Tolo. Sing your best version of Happy Birthday, You Love Diesel. No, you don't have to sing.
You can. I mean, you can if you want
You
to.
can, but we'll have gift cards. We'll have gift cards at Ingles. So we would love to see you in the month of July. We have back-to-back. Is that right?
We do.
Yeah, back-to-back Ingles.
It's ACC Media Day that caused
that's why.
this.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill Belichick.
Normally would be a Wednesday that we would be on location, the 23rd.
Yep.
But because of ACC Media Days, we pushed that up a week so that we could be there in Charlotte bringing you coverage from the ACC Media Day.
7 live events in the month of July. Okay, 6, and then one on the 1st of... Okay, 5. Those aren't live. Those are in studio, but they're big events. I'll tell you this. I may not know how to count Diesel, but I can tell you we are going to be busy in the month of July. Tomorrow, we started off as we are live at Ingles in Greenville, Poinsett Highway, just, minutes away from downtown? What area? What is that?
That's Cherrydale.
Cherrydale?
That's Cherrydale.
So I guess, is that zoned for, and those Greenville County lines are so crazy, I guess that's zoned for Greenville High School? I don't know. That seems too far.
I think that's Wade Hampton.
Wade Hampton.
I would guess that's zoned for Wade Hampton, or depending on exactly where you are, maybe it's zoned for TR.
Yeah, it could be.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah, you keep going. You keep going, down 25. So tomorrow, Diesel and I live in Greenville at Ingles, Poinsett Highway. If you are in that area or work in that area, we'd love to see you for the very first time. We'll have some Ingles gift cards. And then to your point, next Wednesday, the 16th, we'll be live at Ingles in Easley. How about that? Pelzer Highway.
Looking forward to it. I love that location.
We have a Tola, and I'm going to try to think of his name in the next 6 seconds, but during football season, we have a Tolo that listens from Easley. I know we have a lot of Tolos in Easley, but that's Anderson. Jay Waller from Anderson texts the show a lot. We have one Tolo that always signs something in Easley. I just can't think of who it is. I know I shouldn't have said it, but we have a lot of Tolos over in the Easley area, so that's not tomorrow, but that's the 16th. You can see us there. The 18th, Diesel, not this Friday, but next Friday, we'll be live from Fifth Third Park in Sparkle City for the Spartanburgers Christmas in July. How about that?
I love it. I love Christmas in July. Are they going to have snow cones? Are they going to sprinkle some shaved ice on us? How are they going to do this?
I don't know.
How are they going to pull this off?
Santa Claus, you think Santa Claus will be there?
We wearing a jersey?
I don't know if I'm a fan of Christmas.
You think Santa Claus would lay one out to prevent a double?
No. He's too fat.
He's got padded.
He's too fat. He's too fat for that. And then the next week, the 23rd and 24th, we will be in Charlotte at ACC Media Days. That's Wednesday, Thursday.
Correct.
So we'll be providing live coverage from ACC Media Days those 2 days. And then July 31st and August the 1st. I know the 1st of August isn't technically July, but it's close enough. We are, for the first time on Wire to Wire, doing a Greenville County High School football kickoff show and a Spartanburg County High School football kickoff show the very next day. So it's going to be an entire show dedicated to Greenville County High School football. You realize, Diesel, we're like a month away from jamborees.
It's getting close.
High school football is like...
It's getting close.
You can smell it. It's just over a month away. So a loaded month of July, and I may or may not be here for it. If Diesel, he tells me I'm going to die and break 16 bones Saturday, and when I'm doing the skydiving, it might be Diesel in July. But nonetheless, one of us will be here. That'd be tough, wouldn't it? If I did splat a little too hard in none of these events, you'd have to be in the studio by yourself.
Yeah, I'm just, like I said, I'm picturing you, Cole, in one of those big white casts, just your whole body, full body cast. Arms stuck up here, wouldn't it have been great if I could pull the second ripcord?
I wonder if I can get ChatGPT to make a photo of me in that cast.
I love it.
So that we can tease the audience on what would be teased. We just told
fool
them.
the audience, yeah.
We just told them.
Well,
Sorry,
they
I
won't
should have said it.
remember. They won't remember. When we come back, Cole, how about this, man? You know, there's a lot of egos in professional sports and guys that are promised certain things, and when it doesn't play out exactly the way they want it to, a lot of times we see them lose it and have epic blow-ups. Kirk Cousins, though, is going the opposite direction. He's like, I get it. I understand. But I think Kirk Cousins should be angry. I think Kirk Cousins should be ripping his team apart. We'll get into it next. Cole, were you among the 3.3 million viewers who spent 21.5 million hours watching the brand new Netflix show Quarterback?
Negative, Ghost Rider.
Yeah. It's hard, man, with all of these platforms, whether it be Netflix or Hulu or Paramount or whatever they are, they're pumping out so much content. It's really easy to miss some really interesting and exciting things that are coming out. And I think Netflix is doing a phenomenal job with a lot of its original programming, especially around sports. Full Swing is a great show. I watched the entire first season, started to get into the second season. I think it's great.
What were those numbers again, by the way?
3.3 million viewers for the first.
That's a lot.
For the first season.
That's a lot of viewers, it feels like.
Yeah. Look, this time of year, that's all there is to watch. There's no live sports, so this is documentary season for a lot of sports. This is advertising for a lot of sports. They understand NASCAR has its docuseries out. Mm-hmm. Football puts out like 25 docuseries every single year. It's really hard to keep up with it, right? We talked about trying to play college football 26. You just don't have time to watch all of it. It's hard to keep track of all of it. What I did find really interesting, Cole, is the new season of Quarterback interviewed Kirk Cousins, who is still with the Falcons, even though he is not the starter with the Falcons. That's going to be Michael Penix this year. He finally opened up about how he feels about how that whole situation went down. Him starting out with the Falcons, taking him to a 6-3 record before he got injured. Michael Penix stepping in as the heir apparent now to be the quarterback there in Atlanta. And I think he's essentially acting as a professional here, not wanting to say the wrong thing and ensure that he never gets the job back. But he has opened up and said that he felt, quote, a little bit misled about how the Falcons lured him to Atlanta in the first place.
So, number one, if you just tuned in, again, I have not seen the documentary. I am interested, though, by the way.
It premiered, I think, Tuesday of last week.
Okay, that's number one. I haven't seen it.
So it's only been out for a little bit of time.
I have an opinion on it. Number two, this is kind of a side conversation, Diesel. Maybe for the next month we could do, not giving ourselves homework, but what if we all, you, I, and the Tolos decided to watch, a docuseries, a few episodes, and then come back and discuss it.
It's like having a book club.
It's like a book
But nobody
club.
has to know how to read.
Thank God. We can participate, right? So that's number two. I think that'd be fun. Number three, misled of the exact reason you were brought to Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can understand that. Maybe for me, though, whenever Michael Penix was drafted, I feel like in Kirk Cousins' mind, you should feel a little bit disrespected, but you also have been around the league long enough to know this is a business.
Yeah, nobody is ever guaranteed a spot forever. Nobody's guaranteed a starting role forever. It's just a fact. I mean, what quarterbacks over the course of his career has Kirk Cousins displaced because he was the young new quarterback who had the talent? Meanwhile, the grizzled vet who's a little long in the tooth, all it takes is a little injury that takes you out for a little bit of time, and you never get your job back. Look at Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady, right? Drew Bledsoe was a solid enough quarterback there in New England. He gets injured. Tom Brady steps in. All of a sudden, Drew comes back. He's ready to go, but sorry, bro, you're not getting your job back.
One thing that stood out to me, Diesel, this Netflix documentary you're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong here. It's not like this documentary is being done after the guy's career's over with.
Sure. He's still actively on the roster.
I just wonder, we talked about this a couple of months ago with some other situation, but boy, that jumps off the page to me. I mean, you're talking about going into a locker room where you're trying to revive the locker room, trying to compete for a division title, and you're asking the quarterback questions like, if I'm a head coach, I don't want this documentary. I don't want these guys near my team. It could very easily cause division.
Well, we as fans, we want this stuff as real-time as it can be, right? We want to know what's happening the moment it happens. We want to know how these guys feel about it immediately after it goes down. Kirk said that he was aware the Falcons might draft a quarterback, but was not informed that they were considering drafting a quarterback that high. He says he wasn't informed about the Penix pick until a phone call by offensive coordinator Zach Robinson while Atlanta was on the clock. And that's not new news. We knew that a couple of months ago, or almost a year ago, when that draft took place, that Kirk was kind of caught off guard with the fact that Michael Penix was taken as high as he was. Here's the quote from Kirk. There's multiple quotes to get to here. He said, "Certainly, if I had the information around free agency, it certainly would have affected my decision. I had no reason to leave Minnesota with how much we loved it there if both teams were going to be drafting a quarterback high. But I've also learned in 12 years in this league that you're not entitled to anything. It's all about being able to earn your spot and prove yourself." But, look, these guys, it's easier than it's ever been to, for example, if you're Kirk, you're talking about his wife and his kids, say, hey, you guys stay in Minnesota. I'm going to get an apartment. I'm going to rent a house in Atlanta. And that's how we're going to do things. That way we don't have to move everybody around. Or they end up moving their family and moving everything, which is a pain in the butt. Whether you're rich or not, it's a huge pain in the butt to move everybody down to a new city halfway across the country. These guys are not robots. They can't just step into any role in any city. It's certainly a hardship. And he feels, I guess, that if he had known Atlanta was that interested in drafting a quarterback high, he would have stayed in Minnesota.
What I find really fascinating, Diesel, about this situation is a few things, but the one that stands out the most is that this is not the first time this has happened. It's just not. So, I get what he's saying, a little bit misled. He talks about, to my point, it is a business. You can draft for the future and respect the present, but the Falcons couldn't find the balance. So I go back to this. Kirk Cousins, a good quarterback. You just said in that quote that maybe he stayed in Minnesota, right? Maybe he wouldn't have. But guess what? Brett Favre was still the starter in Green Bay, but the Packers drafted a guy named Aaron Rodgers, 24th overall. Alex Smith was coming off of a 12-4 Pro Bowl season with the Kansas City Chiefs, Diesel. And the Chiefs drafted a guy named Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if you've ever heard of him or not. Joe Flacco, still under contract with the Ravens. They drafted a guy named Lamar Jackson. You mentioned Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady. Happened with Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance. The 49ers traded 3 first-rounders to draft Trey Lance at number 3. That turned out to be maybe the biggest bust in the NFL history. And then Josh Rosen and Kyler Murray. Rosen was drafted in 2018, played 13 games as a rookie. The next year, Cliff Kingsbury came in, and guess what? Took Kyler Murray number 1 overall. He was traded. Josh Rosen was before year 2. Obviously, he was a bust as well. But it's not like this is the first time this has ever happened. So with that being said, I don't necessarily feel bad for the guy. But I will tell you this. I hadn't originally planned on asking the question to our next guest. But now, since we're having this conversation, Diesel, at 5 o'clock, and we're joined by a good friend of the show, Ramon Robinson, at 5:20, who's a quarterback trainer, I'd love to know his thoughts on these type of situations, especially with what's playing out in Atlanta.
Well, he also had to make a difficult decision when he was injured after that 6-3 start of whether or not he should take time off, let his body heal, and then get back out there on the field, because every quarterback should know the reality of, even if I'm a good starter, and Kirk Cousins was always a good starter, not elite by most standards, that somebody could come in and find something special and just displace you. And it is what it is, and you'll never get a chance to get back on the field. He says in a quote here, I remember reading Drew Brees' book back in 2010 when he first wrote it, how he made the point that he tried to never let his backup see the field, even if it was somebody who really wasn't a threat. You just never let that happen. He said, and I've never heard this phrase before, in this league, if you give someone else the chance, if you want to get Wally piped and there's Lou Gehrig behind you, that can happen at the time.
Wally who?
Wally Pipe.
I've never heard that.
We're going to need an old school
Wally
baseball historian.
Piped.
Maybe he was the guy that Lou Gehrig stepped in, took his starting role, and never gave it back.
I'm going to have to do some quick research on Wally Piped. It's okay. Here's some instant backing. It's a sports slang term that means someone lost their starting job to a backup and never got it back.
Oh.
So here's where it came from, Diesel. This is interesting. Wally Pipe was Pip, I hope I'm saying that right, probably not, was the starting first baseman for the New York Yankees in the early 1920s. On June 2nd, 1925, he sat out a game due to a headache, and a kid named Lou Gehrig took his place.
Yeah.
And guess what?
Never
Lou never missed a game in 14 years, 2,130 straight games, Hall of Famer. And guess what? Oh, Wally Pipe, whatever it is.
Well, I think it's Wally Pip.
Well,
now that name sounds familiar.
Wally Pip never got his job back. So you learned something new today on this Tuesday edition of Wire to Wire.
But if I'm Kirk, though, and I did make a decision to move my family from Minneapolis to Atlanta, number one, you made a great decision because who retires up north? Nobody. But you move your family down here, and you think that you are protected. Number one, you're making a stupid amount of money because why do people keep giving Kirk Cousins huge contracts? But you think that you're safe. And you could say it's not really about the money. These guys are millionaires. What difference does it matter to him if he rides the bench or if he starts? It's all ego for these guys, right? It's all self-actualization if you want to put it into psychological terms. They don't want to see their careers go down the drain because somebody steps in and has an amazing run. Like you said, it could be somebody that you don't really see as a threat could step in and throw 3 touchdowns in a game because he's just playing out of his mind and he got that opportunity. And all of a sudden, you're done. I mean, Kirk doesn't want to be bouncing around from team to team to team, even though he's rich. It's not going to affect him that much. It's not going to be a financial hardship if he gets moved to this team, that team, whatever team.
I don't know. This is bad. But when you look at Kirk Cousins, he's been around the game for a long time, Diesel. And his net worth, by the way, it's estimated around $160 million.
Ooh.
So he's had contracts, he's had endorsements, he's had investments, right? Including a fully guaranteed 4-year, $180 million deal with the Falcons that we're talking about. Approximately $294 million in career earnings and NFL salaries alone. I get that a competitor wants to compete, but let me tell you, if I've made $294 million, yeah, you can let that Penix guy play. I'm good. I mean, what do we remember, Charlie?
It's proof that you're getting old.
Yeah, it is. But then guess what? I'll be old and rich and healthy. You'll be young and hurt with a concussion.
Well, hey, I brought that up last year, the year before, with Tua. Dude, you're already rich. Just retire, right? Retire while your eggs are not all the way scrambled. Enjoy being rich. Enjoy spending time with your family. But these guys are competitors, man. That's what they do. They don't want to lose their gig. They don't want to lose their job.
I know. I just think ultimately former Clemson quarterback Charlie Whitehurst, clipboard Jesus, I think he had the best job. He's probably living a great life on some boat somewhere far off. I mean, look, you can go compete, but that's fine. I'll be healthy and still a millionaire. But I believe a place in the NFL, I just don't think it's a starting quarterback anymore. That might be painful for him to kind of realize.
Here's the thing that could happen. And Kirk is 36, and what is Michael Penix, like 32? He's old too. But there's a chance Michael Penix comes in and plays, starts 6 games, stinks. They got to go back to Kirk Cousins, and he could gain his starting job back. Then you're in a situation not entirely dissimilar from the Carolina Panthers with Bryce Young and Andy Dalton. But the problem is, you know full well that you are the old guy, right? And even if you're Andy Dalton and you're playing better football than Bryce Young is right now, you know that you're not going to win in those conversations. Like, they drafted Bryce or they drafted Michael to be the starter one day, and very often these front office guys will make that call and say, you know what, even if he's going to struggle, we need to go ahead and put him in now and let him take his lumps so that next year he's going to be the guy, no questions asked. And then you're Kirk Cousins and you're working at a T-Mobile store.
You asked, you joked about him being in his 30s, Diesel. I looked up real quickly the oldest rookie quarterbacks in the NFL. At his rookie season, Michael Penix was 24.
Okay.
One of the oldest quarterbacks taken in round one ever, alongside Bo Nix. Otis Douglas was
I don't like these TH.
Otis Douglas Diesel as a rookie in the NFL in 1946. Do you want to guess how old Otis Douglas was as a rookie?
Well, you kind of gave it away. I'm going to say 32.
35.
30.
I did.
Well, that's because half the country died in the war. There was nobody else to go out and play.
I did give you the 35. Chris Winkie, Florida State guy.
He was 30, wasn't he?
29. How are you 29? Heisman winner drafted in 01.
Chris Winkie was amazing.
How are you that old? That is amazing. Brandon Whedon, 29. Oldest first round. That's crazy.
James on the stream says Kirk has stolen enough money from Dan Snyder, Arthur Blank, and the Vikings. He'll be okay. Yeah, look, you can hurt my ego, you can bruise my ego, and you let me dry my tears with $100 bills, and I'll feel a lot better about it eventually. But like I said, these guys are competitors. They don't want their careers to come to an end. Yeah. They don't want to lose their gig. It sucks. No matter what profession you're in, you don't want to lose it. But again, to your point there, James, it's a lot easier to get over it when you can hop into your G-Wagon.
Yep.
Tow your $20,000 boat down to the lake.
Yep.
Drop it in, fire it up on the first time, and go ripping down the river. You feel a lot better about it in that situation.
You really do.
It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. We're going to stay local when we come back. Ramon Robinson from RR Elite Quarterback Academy, a great guest that we bring on all the time. He's always got something going on, and we can't wait to hear from Ramon next. To call our next guest a wealth of knowledge, Cole, would be selling it short. We bring on Ramon Robinson, the owner of RR Elite Quarterback Academy. The list of players that he has worked with and helped improve is long, and it is distinguished. Number one, Ramon, appreciate you joining the show. As always, when you do, everybody learns something when you're on. So let's start from the ground up. When you have a new prospect that you're working with, and Cole was telling me that you've been out on the field today, what is the very first thing that you look to evaluate when you've got a new prospect? Ground floor, first thing you work on.
Well, first thing I want to check his attitude and to see if is it something that he wants to do or his parents wants to do. Okay, that's my number one thing, because we have a lot of parents that live through their kids and wanted to be quarterbacks and things of that sort on the next level. And that's one thing I always check. I honestly check that just because of everything that goes into playing quarterback, because everyone is not built to be a quarterback, and it takes a lot into it. And I always check the mental when it comes to a guy being his first time out there with me, because everybody's not mentally able to take instructions when it comes to wanting to be a quarterback, and also mentally able to construct the criticism when it comes with, being active and getting on that football field in regards to the wins and losses, the do's and don'ts, and you know how it is. The crowds are bipolar, when it comes, and the fans when it comes to the quarterback position. So ultimately, when it comes to that, is just more so the mental of, are you sure you want to do this? And then secondly, then I start from the ground up. It all starts with the footwork. You always build it up from the ground up, just like a house. The house, you don't start a house building it from the top down. You build it from the ground up, and that's the one thing I start with. I always start with the foundation to see how the footwork is, and once you get the footwork in place, that allows you to correct a lot of things, and a lot of things just fall in place when it comes to the throwing mechanics and the things of that sort.
Ramon, it's Cole here. I think that was so well said. Always appreciate you hopping on with us. We love having you on, and I don't know many people who are in tune with the game and the position as much as you are, so we appreciate your time. But I want to ask your thoughts, your opinion, kind of a follow-up to that. You've been doing this for a while. You played the quarterback position. You played at the collegiate level. You have all kind of accolades and things named after you and all kind of prestigious awards. But when you look at players and youth that are coming up in today's society versus compared to, maybe when you played high school football, I see it, and I know you and other high school coaches out there do as well. But can you talk about just how different it is coaching and doing what you do today compared to what it may have been 10, 15, 20, maybe 25 years ago, and just the way that students respond to criticism? You mentioned constructive criticism. You can't be as tough on all of them nowadays, and I don't want to use the S word and call them soft, but it's a totally different generation out there, man.
Yes, it is. It's funny you said that. That's been a conversation, and it's blowing in the wind the last few days. I was in Nashville this weekend with one of my quarterbacks, 2026, Jared Curtis, who's committed to Georgia, and that was the one thing. His mom just put a post out in regards to, talking about constructive criticism and the kids being able to take the tough love and things like that. They wasn't, as a family, as in her, she was a former, she wasn't sure how to take it with the type of, instruction I was giving. I was tough on them and things like that, but she said it all worked out in the end, because ultimately in this position, you're going to get beat up. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get beat up as a quarterback, and it goes back to what I said. You have to interview a kid just to see what their mental is nowadays, just to be able to play that position. And and now with how I train and do things, I always tell people from the start, I do not run a daycare. And when I mean that, I'm teaching from experience. I'm not teaching from a book. I'm teaching from things that I've went through, from the high school level to the college level to the professional level, of things that I have to go through. They're still going through to this day. And it's not a Ramon Robinson thing. It's a quarterback thing that everybody has to be prepared for. And you say soft, I'm gonna say soft. You know, the generation isn't the same. You know what I'm saying? We was in the yard, you know, playing the tackle man with the football in regards to preparing us for things that we did with our team when we got to high school and things like that. And to get into the training part, you know, we talk about it, you know, as a whole with, you know, some of my colleagues that play the position. And, you know, we have the QB legacy, the big camp we got coming up next weekend. And we talk about these things. It's just that in our symposium is that we didn't have these things growing up. Our training was going to TV and watching our favorite quarterback or favorite team play, whatever position it was. And we went back to the yard and we tried to simulate and do anything that we thought resembled our favorite guy. And that was our training. Our training was, let me lock it in mentally and go out to the field. Now let me do it physically. You know what I'm saying? And with vision. And it's just, those are the different things. Like, I always wish that, you know, growing up, I would have had a me when it came to the instructing of the quarterback position and also the mentoring, more so the mentoring part of it, just because it made me lock in other areas that I needed to lock in more so into versus the athletic part, because my athletic ability was given. That's just like with anybody. It's given from the man above. But it's just the way training is today, these kids have it best. You know, they just need to take advantage of it and at the same time get with the right people when you're training, because I'm going to say it because I can. Everybody that trains isn't the best for your child. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, I see it all the time, but I don't get on social media and do a rant about it because to each his own. You know what I mean? I try to stay within my lane when it comes to the development of the kids, but it's just when I see something wrong, it irks me just because of, with South Carolina being one of the lowest recruited areas at the quarterback position in the country, that's what pisses me off, just because I don't like it, because we need to be recruited as a whole. You know what I'm saying? And colleges ain't going to come to this state for 5 or 6 quarterbacks. They need to be coming here for 50 or 60 guys that are on the radar. You know what I mean? So it shouldn't be a conversation of, well, the quarterbacks in South Carolina, they don't have this and they don't have that. You know, we've gotten better at that, but it still needs to continue to where people need to be running and flooding this state because of the development of the quarterback position. You don't have an excuse now from when I was coming through and other guys coming through, you know, the Woodrow Dancers of the state of South Carolina and guys like that. And you know what I'm saying? So now kids are able to engage in getting some type of, you know, one-on-one Pacific training, whatever sport it is. You know what I'm saying? So now it's just, we don't have an excuse. We don't have an excuse for, as a state, as a whole, when it comes to the quarterback position, because the development systems and programs are here in the state as long as you're choosing the right program. You know what I mean? And getting the right instructions from the right guys. And that we don't have that, you know, and we didn't have that then, but we have it now. And it's just the mental part. I feel like our mental is much better than the mental now of some of these kids, because we got beat down as kids. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see a lot of kids playing football in the front yard anymore and things like that. And that's where football players was made. You know, when you're playing the tackle man with the football and things like that, but that also went into your development of who you are and taking that tough love and being able to be tough and ready for your team, you know?
Ramon, we've had you on this station here multiple times now, and we've talked about the relationships with individual players that you've built up over the years, and building that trust and the vocabulary. It's a critical thing. So how do you navigate when a player that you've worked with in the past, who does trust you, who comes to you as an advisory type of role, when they come to you and say a year or two into their college career saying, Ramon, I'm just not connecting with my college quarterback coach, something is wrong here. What's your initial reaction or read? Are you trying to help bridge that gap to keep that player at a location? Or how do you know when a situation is just untenable and it's time for him to move on?
Well, that comes along with and you saying that comes along. I've had those situations happen, and within the last few years, and that comes along with, like you say, bridging that gap. And that's why I say everything that we do, from bridging the gap with high school coaches and quarterback instructors, and not just quarterback instructors, but instructors, period, that do positional training, is to bridge that gap between high school coaches, to bridge that gap between college coaches as well, to where everybody's on the same page. And so when I see a situation like that, I talk to the kid first, and I always tell them, say, hey, go and have a sit down with the coach and see what's going on. And at the same time, I ask for that number. If I already got that relationship with that coach, I will reach out and just say, hey, look, coach, what is it that, John Doe needs to work on to get better this off season? What is he doing wrong, or this and that and so forth? Well, he's not locking in here. He's not locking in, as far as footwork-wise here. He's not doing his film study. He's not doing X, Y, and Z. Well, he might not be going to class. You know what I'm saying? And it may be little things that sometimes the clients don't tell you just because they're afraid and they're embarrassed. And it's some of the things are off the field things that sometimes we leave out. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of issues there. But when you're doing these things, the trainee has to be open and honest about what's going on, and that's the only way you're going to get to the root of it, is that everybody has to be on the same page. And that's the thing that I've been doing with guys that I train during the off season with their college coaches, just making sure that I'm working on them with the right things and the same things that they're doing at the school. I just don't want to do things just to do it when they're not doing that, if that makes a lot of sense, just because I want the best version of this quarterback and they want the best version of this quarterback if they're going to be representing, whether it's coming out of my academy and representing that school.
Ramon Robinson joins us right here on the Fan Upstate, RR Elite Quarterback Academy. Kind of playing off of that a little bit, Ramon, when you talk about, situations being different with every single player, every single, quarterback that you maybe have coached or haven't coached in the world of high school football, where you can transfer legally one time now with a new ruling coming down from the high school league not long ago. How do you manage those situations where you do have a quarterback who's talking to his parents, talking to you about transferring? It comes to mind for me with the situation of someone that you're close to at Gaffney High School with Javon Gilmore, who's a really talented quarterback in the upstate and a quarterback from another area moving into Gaffney. And it's not just that example, but I'm sure it happens every year, if not multiple times per year. How do you handle those conversations?
I plead the fifth.
Well said.
Nah, I'm just saying, because it in my world, I'm going to get blamed for everything. I've gotten blamed for everything, whether it was a quarterback or a wide receiver, or offensive lineman, a D lineman. If somebody transferred, it was because Ramon Robinson on EPT, told them to do that, which that is not the case. One thing you have to understand in my business, I am an instructor. I'm also a consultant. It's things that they consult to me about individually that they may not talk to nobody else about, and that's part of my business. I am a consultant. They can consult with me with anything that, whether it's in high school or college or whatever it may be, decisions that they're wanting to do. But at the time, I can honestly tell you, the parents come to me. It's not a lot of kids. Kids can't come and say, hey, well, Coach Ramon told me to transfer.
Sure.
No, I've helped kids advise, when they come, I help them advise, hey, this is the pros and cons if you do this and that, X, Y, and Z, and so forth. But it's got to the point where now people are going to do what they want to do, whether you give them the good and the bad. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's just because everybody thinks they have the answer when they don't have the answer, when they're not in that field. You know what I'm saying? So it's just sometimes people hang themselves by doing certain things in high school and transferring here and transferring there, but at the same time, you transfer wherever you at. If you wasn't balling where you was at, I don't see you all of a sudden becoming a ball at another school. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, if you wasn't doing your academics at one school, I don't all of a sudden see you picking up your academics at another school. If you were doing the things that you was doing there, what makes you think it's going to be a change just because you changed schools? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And it's just a lot of things, and on my end, and I'm being confidential, if you knew some of the things that I've heard and I've seen, you would laugh and you'd be like, ain't no way. But It's just, with the new one-time transfer rule, honestly, I haven't even educated myself upon it just because, like I said, once again, I don't educate myself on that just so I can help out with that because people are going to do what they want to do regardless. Yep. You know what I mean? So it's not about what Ramon wants for them. I can give you my 2 cents. At the same time, I've told plenty of kids, sit your butt where you at, and guess what? Next thing you know, you look on TV or whatever it is, or social media. Well, social media is TV now. You look on social media, hey, I am doing my next 2 years at this school. Man, get out of here. You know what I mean? So I've seen it on every end, whether it's good or bad, and it worked out for the good for whatever that trainee or whatever that person is. But it is one of those things, like you say, when it comes to kids wanting to transfer, and I get it. They want to play. Some want to get recruited. I understand that, and some of the situations that they put themselves into. It just, as long as you put yourself in a better situation to be a great student athlete, I'm all for it.
Ramon, you talked about, college programs from other states under recruiting quarterbacks in the state of South Carolina. So how do you fix that? How do you turn that around? How do you market to college coaches, whether they be from Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, North Carolina, that South Carolina has enough elite young quarterback talent to make this a market that they need to come to and focus on when they're looking for talent? Is it guys like you? Is it athletic directors? Is it coaches that really push talent to other states? Like, how do you turn that disparity around?
Well, you turn that around with great quarterback play. You turn that around with great quarterback competition, and that's when I got back to is just, a lot of people can play the position, but can you develop into a quarterback at that position? You got what I'm saying? And it's just, there's a big difference. And it's and I've spoke about it before. It's all about anybody can train, but can you train can you train to develop that kid? Can you develop that kid that you're training? It's a difference. Anybody can train. Anybody can train, but are they getting better? Not just off of one throw or this throw or a video, just a post. Is this kid getting better? Yeah. You got what I'm saying? Is this kid getting better? Is this kid going to make his team better? Is this kid going to make everybody around him on his team better? You got what I'm saying? That's what has to happen with South Carolina, because that's the main reason why I got into doing what I do, because I was in those rooms with the Rivals and the 247s and the VTO Sports and all that, traveling around the country, and I heard the criticism that they talked about with the quarterback position, that, look good, eye candy, but guess what? Fundamentals are messed up. You know what I'm saying? Can't read coverages, can't do a proper 3-step, 5-step drop, terrible throwing, just things like that, and just not very knowledgeable of the game. Oh, they're not elite in the classroom. But when it comes to that, it's just that I can't stretch myself thin. I can't train every kid in the state of South Carolina and other places that want to come. Trust me, it's impossible to. But at the end of the day, get with somebody that knows what they're doing and knows what it's like to be a quarterback from the state of South Carolina. And we can go through the guys. Like, people don't know what the Grayson Loftus, the Lenoris, the Raheem Jesus, the Scott Sater, the guys that's coming on through now, the Gavins, I can keep going. Yep. You know what I'm saying? The Luke Doty's, the people before that. I mean, the Kelly Bryants and all that. They don't understand everything that they had to go through, the DJ Israels and all that, to know what it's like to go through and be a quarterback. These guys have stood the test with everybody in the country when it came to camps, but they also are a small group of kids that were developing in the state. You see what I'm saying? And it's just that it can't just be this area, this pocket of high schools that got great quarterbacks. I want to see great quarterback play throughout the whole state of South Carolina. Now, is it going to be perfectly done? Of course it's not going to be. But at the same time, you have to get with guys that want to teach the position and not teach all the social media BS that you see, doing 360s in the air and doing that stuff. That's not football. You know what I mean? That's not football. That's for entertainment, for the social media. If you want to do that, then do it content creator and go from there. But also, if you want to go further along with this quarterback thing and be respected as it, we as a whole have to come together and get better and develop as a whole, not just develop in segments of this and that and so forth at the end of the day. Because ultimately, I'm going to do what I got to do on my end. I'm not going to sell a product that I know that's not going to sell, okay? I'm not going to do that. Am I going to reach out to coaches? I'm going to reach out to coaches and say, hey, we got something here. I did it before, and I'm still doing it to this day. We got something here. But I'm not just going to do it just to say, hey, I got this guy recruited or just because we're slow. No. At the end of the day, we have to continue to produce multiple quarterbacks throughout the whole state. And in regards to for where people to keep coming in here and wanting to grab these guys, which it has gotten better, Cole. It has gotten better. It's way better than it was years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Way better. And it's going to continue to get better as long as these guys are continuing to have that dream to play on that next level. And it's just like with me with training. I'm not training you to be a great quarterback. I'm training you for the next level. That's just like if I'm training a middle schooler, I'm training you to be the next high school quarterback, not the next best middle school quarterback. You got what I'm saying? Yeah. And it just goes up. And that's what I do.
Ramon, you are the absolute best. You don't know how much we appreciate you taking time to join us. It's been too long. Let's do it again soon, my friend.
I appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. Appreciate you as well. Ramon Robinson, just the best. I love it. I could listen to that guy talk for like hours.
And the key thing that I take away every time we have Ramon on, because I want to teach you how to set aside all of the BS that's going to keep you from being a better player than you are right now. And it's all the mental side, right? Yeah. If you can find somebody who has the want to, the will to, you can train them and make them a better quarterback. But somebody with all the talent in the world,
that's right,
who doesn't have it right here in between in between the temples is never going to be an elite quarterback. When we come back, Cole, we'll take our whip around the sports world, see what else is going down on our daily wires. a rapid-fire whip around the sports world call. We call these our Daily Wires. The buzz happening around the sports world. A new show for you to have to watch. There's about a blue million of them. Netflix Quarterback is something you should all look into. We talked about it in the last hour. Kirk Cousins opening up, saying that he feels a little bit misled about the situation that brought him to Atlanta in the first place as a quarterback. If that is a big revelation, what else was dropped in that show? They seem to be good about pulling information out of guys. In case you missed it, the Pacers have confirmed that Tyrese Halliburton will not play at all in the 2025-26 season. The Knicks have hired Mike Brown to be their next head basketball coach. Mike has coached the likes of LeBron, Kobe, Shaq, Steve Nash, Dwight Howard, and more as a head coach. He was the associate head coach of the Warriors from 2016 to 2022. Record as a head coach, 454 and 304. Does that get you all excited if you're a Knicks fan?
You know, Mike Brown's a good coach. I thought what he did in Sacramento was really impressive. There was a run there where Golden State almost got by Mike Brown. I believe it was in his first season in Sacramento with Darren Fox. I'll say this. He's a good coach. Tom Thibodeau's a good coach, too. It better works, all I'm saying.
So are you thinking more lateral move or upgrade?
So. No, I think lateral. Yeah.
Nick Barrett, Lenore Sellers, and DQ Smith, along with Shane Beamer, will represent South Carolina at SEC Media Days. Rob Brown, our own Rob Brown, will be on location gathering interviews and audio, so be listening for that. Dallas Mavericks All-Star Anthony Davis underwent a procedure to repair a detached retina that he suffered during the season. He's expected to be healthy for training camp. That's gross, man.
That sounds like it hurts.
That sounds like an eyeball dangling out of your head.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark said that she expects to return to action on Wednesday against the Golden State Valkyries after missing the last 5 games with a left groin injury. She participated in the 5-on-5 portion of practice on Monday for the first time since she suffered the injury on June 26th.
I like that word though, suffered.
Suffered?
I like that. It kind of has nice.
I'm trying, man. It's alliteration is tough. Amber Rose, a former wife of former NBA star Dwight Howard, has filed for divorce after only 6 months of marriage. Not that Amber Rose, the one with the tattoo across her forehead, a different Amber Rose. She cites irretrievable brokenness and no prospects for reconciliation as the reason she is asking to have the marriage annulled. She has also requested alimony and equitable division of marital assets.
Of course she has.
Yeah, she wants to get paid. Pettis Norman, tight end on the football field and a civil rights advocate Offutt, has died. He was 86. Norman played for the Dallas Cowboys from 62 to 70 and the San Diego Chargers from 71 to 73. He was a member of the first Cowboys team to play in the Super Bowl.
Wow, how about that?
Paolo Banchero has signed a record-breaking contract extension with the Magic worth up to $287 million over 5 years. And finally, the NCAA Media Coordination and Statistics staff officially declared USC Upstate softball outfielder Talia Thomas as the statistical champion for toughest player to strike out in NCAA Division I softball during the season.
That's incredible.
Not getting her out.
That's an incredible stat.
Yeah.
Think about that.
The toughest player to strike
awesome.
out.
Right here in Spartanburg.
Love it.
That is so cool. Kirk Cousins, we talked about that, but not the only Kirk we're going to talk about today. How about Kirk Herbstreit Diesel? Let's hop back into that conversation next.